Okay, so let's look at this first question, x and y intercepts. I want you to change actually the question that you were given because yours has 4x squared on it. So just cross out the question that's on your worksheet and write down 4x minus 2y plus 12 equals 0. So remember, for a long answer, and if you want to write that this would be a long answer question, you have to be able to, given an equation, algebraically solve x and y intercepts. What this term algebraically solves means is that out of 5 marks, even if you get the answer correct, if you don't algebraically do the work, you could get 0 out of 5. Okay, so you have to be able to algebraically show how you're able to determine the x and y intercepts. So how you do that, if you want the x-intercept, what do you do? Yes. So if you are solving for an x-intercept, you let the opposite variable, which would be y, equal 0. Okay. So first step in algebraic work is always writing what the equation is. So the equation is 4x minus 2y plus 12 is equal to 0. We're solving the x-intercept, so I'm just going to box in y, and I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to put in 0 for y. So 4x minus 2 times 0 plus 12 equals 0. You do not have to write out 4x minus 0. At this point, if you wanted to just cross this out, because you know that anything times 0 is 0, so you could just get rid of it at this stage and write out 4x plus 12 is equal to 0. Max, what would I do from here? Not divide by 4 first. That's right. So essentially, I'm going to first box this in. So I want to get x by itself, but before I get rid of that 4, I'm going to subtract 12. Yeah. So then you're going to have 4x is equal to negative 12. And then from here, 4 times x, you need to get that, isolate that x, so you're going to divide this side by 4, and you're going to divide this side by 4. So the x-intercept is equal to negative 3. Now, on your quiz, it asked to give that as an ordered pair. Like, what is that as an ordered pair? So the ordered pair would have been when x is negative 3, the y value was 0. So that's 1 point on this graph. That would be the x-intercept. Okay, so now we'll do the y-intercept. Gabby, if I'm calculating the y-intercept, what do I do for y-intercept? Yes. Again, first step is you write the equation. Now we're letting x equal 0. So second step is to put in 0 for x. Like, you can't skip that step if you're doing algebraic work. Here's where you could say, okay, 4 times 0 is 0. And then you could just write minus 2y plus 12 equals 0. Julius, what would you do from here? Yeah, subtract 12, because essentially we're going to get that by itself. So let's get rid of that 12. And then Ali, what would be the last thing from here? divide by -2. So some students here, they say they want to add 2, but remember, when they're right next to each other, this represents multiplication. It's -2 times y. So the opposite of times is you divide. And you divide by whatever the number in front of the y is, which would be -2. So the y-intercept is equal to 6. So when x is 0, y is 6. That would be the ordered pair. Okay? Now, if you have 2 points, you could graph this. You only need a minimum of 2 points to graph. So let's draw what a quick graph would look like. And I'll show you sort of where students lost on the graph of this. So draw a quick Cartesian plane. Okay, so you need your 2 points. You need x is -3 and y is 0. And you need x is 0 and y is 6. So some of you graphed your x and your y intercept like this. And then what you did is you just connected those 2 dots, right? Those 2 coordinates. And you just had a line going from here to here. That's not your entire graph. That's just connecting 2 coordinates of your graph. Your graph, remember, extends through those 2 points. So you would have gotten your ruler and you would have just extended your line and you use the entire grid paper that you're provided with. And you were provided with a grid paper on your quiz, so you'd have used your entire grid paper. If you extend your line to the very end of your grid paper, you don't need to use arrowheads, or by default, if you want, you could always use arrowheads. And that just shows it's going to continue forever to the right, up and out to the right, and down and to the left is what the arrowhead represents. Okay, so you guys could do this one now. You do number 2. Remember that f of x is just a fancy way of saying y. So 3x plus 7. So you do your x and your y intercepts. And I'll just get different people for the answer. It might be a decimal. Let me double check. Yeah, your x-intercept, you guys, will be a decimal. Remember on your exam, I'd never give you a decimal on your exam because you'd be provided with grid paper, then you'd be able to nicely graph it. And we wouldn't want you to graph a decimal. Okay, Ayla, what did you get for the x-intercept as a fraction? Mm, oh, yes, I am missing something. So you got x is equal to negative 7 over 3? Yes. Okay, and then did you calculate what that is approximately as a decimal? Sorry, 2.3 repeating, yeah, approximately 2.3. Okay, so again, how she would have done that is subtract 7 from both sides and get negative 7 is equal to 3x, and then divide by 3 and divide by 3. And you would have gotten x is equal to negative 7 over 3. Sadie, what did you get as a y-intercept? 7. Yeah. So y-intercept is equal to 7. Again, ordered pair. Gabriel, what would the ordered pair be for the y-intercept? Yes. And this guy would be, usually if there's fractions, keep it as a fraction. So the ordered pair for this would be negative 7 over 3, and that's the x-intercept, y is 0. If we were to quickly sketch this one, here's what this guy would be. What I'll do is I'll just put this point, and I'll say that that is 0, 7. And then the x-intercept would be -1, -2, -3, and it's about -2.3. So about here. And then again, you would have grabbed a ruler and you would have connected those 2 points. And that would have been your graph. Okay, for the second one, if you remember, punch this into your calculator in y is equal to. So remember, f of x is really a fancy way of saying y is equal to 3x plus 7. And then you could fill in the table of values here. And I want you to add an additional y value of 34 and then punch in or get the corresponding x value. Okay, so show how to do this on the calculator to get the answers, and then we'll do a couple algebraically. So on your calculator, remember that it's y is equal to 3x plus 7. And then you would, I'm just going to hit zoom 6 just in case I changed my window. This is what the graph would look like. And then from here, you could go to your table of values, which is second graph. Okay. You would fill in what it's asking for. So when x is -5, y is -8. And remember that that would give an ordered pair at -5, -8. When x is -2, y is 1. So then we're going to have 7 and 13. 13 and 22. Okay, so you'd get all your ordered pairs. Jamie, do you have, when y is 34, what was the x value? 9. Yeah. So you'd have just gone down on your chart. and you would have looked for 34, and the corresponding x value is 9. Okay, let's show two of these algebraically. Like if they asked to show two of these values algebraically, how would you do that? So let's say one of the values they asked to determine was x is equal to -5. Okay, so we'll do that off to the side. So x is equal to -5. We know that the answer for y has to be -8, but how would we show that algebraically? We write what the equation is, 3x plus 7, and into our formula, or into our equation where x is, we're going to input -5. That would give us -15 plus 7. And if you needed to check, that's going to be -8. But to check, -15 plus 7 gives you -8. Okay. Let's also show algebraically how we would determine if we're given a y value, right? So let's write what our equation is. Our equation given was 3x plus 7. And we're going to take out y and put in 34. So this was one of your quiz questions. Okay, you need to get x by itself. So subtract 7 from both sides. And divide by 3. X is equal to 9. So when y is 34, I should have written that up here. When y is equal to 34, x is equal to 9. Okay. Okay, that bottom left hand where it says graphing, we're actually going to skip that one because the grid's not, it's not a good grid to graph like 5, 22, so I'd have to pick a different example. But let's do this domain and range question just to review this. I'll quickly, we'll just do one domain and range to, and we'll do set builder notation and interval notation. Now it's actually just asking for this curve here. We're going to do the domain and range of this. What this is just showing is that domain is all of the x values on your graph and range is the y values. But what it wants is the graph is just this guy. Okay. So that's the graph there. So remember, there's two types of ways you could represent domain and range, and the first one is called set builder notation. So let's do set builder notation first. It's going to be x is such that for domain, and y is such that for range. Because there's a biggest and a smallest x value, I'm going to put x in the center and y in the center, and I'm going to put my inequality signs. You want to put your biggest x on the right and smallest on the left. So my biggest x value would be what? It's, what is it? It's 1. Yeah, it's going up. Actually, this would be going up. The x's would be going up by 0.5. So like this is 1. There's 2. So the biggest x is 1. The smallest x is here at -3. And then I go through and I say, do I need to erase any of these equals? This one, I believe, is a closed dot. So that's going to stay equal. And this one's the open dot. So I'm going to erase this. And this is read x is such that x is less than or equal to 1, greater than -3. And then you end your domain with x belongs to the element of real numbers. Emmanuel, what's my biggest y value? 0. Jevin, what's my smallest y value? -4. Do you want me to erase the equal to for the 0? No. Because even though it's not equal to 0 here, it doesn't touch it here, it does touch it here. So this is what the range would be, comma, YER. Okay, so that's called set builder. A lot of you actually on your test did not set builder, you did interval, and you did very well with interval. So interval notation for domain, it's just the smallest number, which is -3, comma, the biggest number, 1. And then it's either rounded brackets or square brackets. This would be a round bracket because it's not equal to, and this would be a square bracket because it's equal to. The range for interval would be the smallest y value is -4, square bracket. The biggest is 0, square bracket. Okay, so that would be the domain and range. On your exam, you choose which notation you're using. Just make sure you could do both. Okay, answer below here, is this guy a function or not? Oh, and what would you say for this first one? No. So this guy is not a function. If it's not a function, what do we call it? A relation. Yeah, this would be a relation. There's a couple reasons why you could say it's not a function. One is it failed the vertical line test. And then the other thing that happens is that, actually we'll show the reason for this one down here. This guy fails a vertical line test. Okay, next one. Ben M, what would you say about this guy? This is a function, yep. So this one is a function. Why would this be a function? Yes, this would pass the vertical. If you plotted this, the points would be 1, 3, 2, 8, and 3, 3. And if you plotted those points and drew a vertical line through each point, this would pass the vertical line test. So this guy would pass VLT. And as what Ben said, each X only appears once. Okay. Gabriel, what would you say about this one? Not a function. Okay. So this guy's not a function. Where would it fail? Like, where would it fail the vertical line test? That's right. It would fail right here. So again, to sort of visualize that, if you needed to, when x is -2, you would have a point at -2, 1 and -2, 3. This is where it would fail. These 2 points here, it would fail right here. So this guy would be a relation. And it would fail at x is equal to -2. That's where it would fail. Oh, you know what I realized? Sorry. And I know you'll have to know this. I realized I missed this down here. Take a minute and answer these two questions. What's f of negative 2 on this graph? And when f of x is negative 3, what's x? So what is f of negative 2? And f of x equals negative 3. What would that be? Actually, it'd be more than two different answers. Yeah, it'd be 3. Okay, you know what, you guys? Because, can we actually change number 2? I want it to be, there's still going to be more than one answer, but let's change it to f of x is equal to 4. Because the other one, negative 3, was going to have decimals. Oh yeah, sorry, negative 4, negative 4. Yeah, let's change it to that. Okay, so the first one, f of negative 2. Marco, what did you get for that one? Yep, negative 4. So f of negative 2 is negative 4. So again, this is saying when x is negative 2, okay, so here's x is negative 2. On your graph, that's x is negative 2. They want to know what's that corresponding y value, and it would be negative 4. Okay, so the answer would be negative 4. Now this one, f of x is equal to negative 4. Sadie, what would you have as the answers for that? Negative 2 and 1. Yep. So that one's saying when y is equal to negative 4. Okay, so this, remember, f of x is y. So when y is equal to negative 4, what are the corresponding x values? So here's negative 4. There's an x value here at 1, right? And here. So you said, sorry, you said, what were your, negative 2 and 1. Yes. Okay. Do this one. F of x is 3x plus 7. Solve for f of negative 2. And then I'll pick somebody for this. F of negative 2. Nicole, what do you have? Sorry. Yes. Yeah. F of negative 2. She said y is equal to 1, which would be correct. And how you would do that, this comes out and negative 2 goes in. So that would become negative 6 plus 7, and that is 1. Remember, that's a point on your graph. That point is going to be when x is negative 2, y is 1. Okay, do this one. F of x is equal to 27. Solve for x. what did you get for x? 2. 2? Okay. So subtract 21 for both sides. And you're going to get 6 is equal to 3x. Divide both sides by 3, and you'd get x is equal to 2. Remember that point on your graph would be 2, comma 27. Okay, this question here, star this one, because we've never done one like this. So this would be a standard of excellence question, but this is a good question that you might see. They say if f of 4 is equal to 56, what they've given you, when they give you like something like this, f of 4 is equal to 56, they've just given you a point, right? So what I want you to do from here is I want you to write down what was the corresponding point that they gave you. Like what point does that give you? Okay. F of 4 is equal to 56. So what point is it? Yeah, 4 comma 56, right? This is our x and that's our y. So the point that they gave, that guy was 4 and this guy's 56. So what we want to write is every time we're given a point, they've essentially given us an x value and a y value. Okay, so that's what they've given us by giving us this point. Then they, over here, they give us an equation because they say f of x is equal to 2x plus c. And what I'm going to do is to make it look more like an equation that we're used to, let's take out f of x, and what variable am I going to put in for f of x? Y, right? So let's rewrite this as y is equal to 2x plus c. So on this graph here, this is a point on the graph. Okay, so on this graph, this is a point. They want us to tell them or calculate what's the value of c on this graph if they give us a point. Do you know how you would do that? How would you do it? What would you do, Julius, for this guy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, the reason why they give you this x and y is because here they give you an x and y. So below here, I want you to take out y, and I want you to put in 56. Take out x, and I want you to put in 4. And then it's exactly what Julia said. So they told us that y, we could put in 56. Then it's going to be 2 times x. X, they said, is 4. So that's going to be 56 is equal to 8 plus c. And then Julia, sorry, what would you do from here? You'd subtract 8. Yep, because if you want to get c by itself, c plus 8, the opposite of plus 8 is basically you're minusing 8 from both sides. And then you're going to get c is equal to what number? 48. Okay. Now, here's how you could check on an exam that you were correct. We think that the answer for C is 48, so we think it's going to be 2x plus 48. Here's how you would verify that you were correct. On your calculator, if you go to y is equal to, and you type in 2x plus 48 here, okay, go to your table of values, so second table. Do you know what point I'd be looking for? The point that they gave me. They told me that on this graph, when x is 4, y is 56. And here's x is 4, y is 56. So that's how you could check if this was ever an exam question that you're correct. Okay, let's do this word problem, and then there's one more, and then I'll give you some practice problems in your book. Okay, a dog kennel charges a flat fee of $50 for insurance to keep your dog there, and then it's $35 per night. The relationship can be represented using this equation. So the cost to give your dog into a kennel is $50 for a flat fee plus $35 per night. C of N represents the total cost and N represents the number of nights the dog stays at the kennel. Okay, what is the cost after a week at the kennel? If this was an exam question, I would have to specify, do they want a week to be like 7 days or 5-day work week or something like that? So I want you guys to do this question. Let's do a week is 7 days. So the equation is this. C of N is equal to a flat rate of $50 plus 35N. We are going to calculate the cost for a week, which N is 7 days. So the cost for 7 days is equal to the $50 flat rate plus it's $35 per day, and the dog's in for 7 days. So the cost for 7 days would be 50 plus 35 times 7, $295. If this was a long answer question on an exam, you have to give what's called a context sentence, which just makes like that you understand this. So it would cost $295 for a 7-day stay. Okay. Star number 2. This is a really good like exam question. Okay, the formula was this. C of N is equal to 50 plus 35N. If we were to graph this, and I said what goes on the x-axis, what goes on the y-axis, we know that this is where y would go, right? So C of N would go here, and this is the cost. Okay, and we know that x is really would be over here, so N would be here. That's where the x-axis is, and that's the number of days. Okay, so it says, what does the c-intercept represent? If I want to figure out the c-intercept, which is the y-intercept, what letter, if I want to figure out what this intercept is, like where is it going to cut the y-axis, what letter equals 0? Yes, x. Which in this example, though, if I want the c-intercept, which letter would it be equals 0? N. Okay, so if you want the c-intercept, what are you going to do? You're going to let n equal 0. So your formula was C of n is equal to 50 plus 35n. Take that out, and we're going to put in 0. So C of 0 is 50 plus 35 times 0. cost for 0 days, what would the cost for 0 days be? $50. So basically, this would be 50, and the graph would look something like this. Okay. So what that means is, let's say you drop your dog off and it doesn't even stay a night. Like you decide to pick it up that same day, it's still going to cost you $50. It's going to cost, like that's called the fixed cost. It's $50 just to drop your dog off plus $35 for every night it stays. So that's what this represents. Okay, so what does it represent? We would say $50 to drop your dog off. And remember, that's how you calculate it, right? If you want this intercept, you let the other letter equal 0. Okay, see if you could calculate this. Let's write what the formula is. C of n equals, it was 50 plus 35n. How many nights can the dog stay if you spend 470? Emmanuel, where are you putting the 470? There's only two places to put things. It's either y or it's x. So cost, where would you put cost? Is this cost or is this cost? Yes. 470 equals 50 plus 35n. You need to get this by itself. How are you going to bring the 50 over to the other side? Subtract, yeah, because this 50 is positive. There's no negative in front of it. So you subtract 50. And you would get 420 is equal to 35n. And then here you could divide both sides by 35. Max, what did you get for n? 12, which represents 12 what? Yeah, 12, or nights, I guess. 12 nights would cost $470. Yes. Okay, everybody's good with that? Yes. If it was a long answer, yes. Yeah, if this was and this type of question would probably be long answer. Okay. Okay, last question. It's something called a graphing story. So look at this graph for a second. This represents time increasing. So like, let's say this is noon and maybe 12:05, 12:10, 12. So like time's continuing on. And this is distance from your car. So like, let's say you park your car and then this represents you're walking away from your car. Okay, so like as 5 minutes goes, you're walking away from your car. Which scenario, so I want you guys to read the 4 scenarios. Which scenario best represents what this graphing story would be? So you got to kind of read each one. And I guess in order to be able to answer this, you sort of have to understand, does somebody want to just raise your hand and tell me what's happening here? Like, what does it represent from here to here? Like, or essentially, I want to know, what does this represent? Leo, what would you say? That's right. Okay. So you guys, this is distance away from the car. So this represents walking away from the car, but this represents he returned to the car. Okay, so it's got to be something like, whatever the story is, this first part is he goes away from his car and then he returns right back to his car. And then here it'd be he's walking away from his car. Can somebody tell me what this could represent? What would you say, Gabriel, like what would this represent in terms of, yeah, that's right. He's like not walking here, right? This is time is going on, but he's in one location doing something for this portion. And then somebody raise your hand, what's happening here? Yeah, he's going back to his car for here. So which one do you think? Okay, so let's, Gabby, what would you say? So is that this one, the pizza one? Okay. Who agrees with her for that one? Yeah. Anybody think it would be something different? Is that the one you were going to say? You know what? The zip line one, at first I thought it was going to be B as well, except there's one issue with this one. Okay, this first part makes sense. Walks to the start of the zip line, gets scared, and goes back to his car. That could be this. Walks to the zip line, gets scared, and goes back to his car. He then gets brave again, and he walks to the zip line. So then he gets brave again, and he walks to the zip line. But this is where we would have the issue. He rides the zip line. Would be, this represents, because the distance isn't changing from his car, that he's staying in one spot. So at first I thought it was that one as well. Ben. Mm-hmm. Said, okay, so as Carlos starts to walk into the pizza shop. Oh. If it said this, he walks, as Carlos starts to walk, if it said this, you guys, to the pizza shop, would that be better? So as he's walking to the pizza shop, because you don't know how far he gets, right? So as, because I kind of agree with that, right? This makes it sound like he gets to the pizza shop, right? As he walks to the pizza shop, he remembers he forgets his wallet, so he's not there yet, though. I'd have to change this. He's not there yet. He returns back to his car, gets his wallet, then he walks all the way to the pizza shop. This represents him stopping somewhere, like to pick up his pizza or to do something. He goes back to his car, then he goes into the shop. Oh, wait a second. He goes back to his car. There's an issue with this one. Do you guys see what the issue is with this one? He remembers he left his wallet in the car. He goes back to his car. So this is back to his car, but it would also have to say he then walks back to the shop, right? What were you going to say, Max? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Okay, I just want to get just out of, I'd have to change the wording in both of these actually. How many people said it was this one at first, the third? I just want to get, and then how many people said this one, the zip line one? Okay, and was there any other ones you guys thought? Okay, because actually reading this again, this would have to, for this to be correct, I'd have to change the wording a bit. Because he can't be, according to this, he can't be into the pizza shop here, right? So he'd have to be walking to the pizza shop. Some point on the way there, he remembers he forgot, returns home or back to his car. He then walks back to the shop. Like I'd have to say back over here. Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's why it shouldn't, that's why they actually don't want it to be this one because riding the zip line. Exactly. You're either getting closer to your car or further from the car. So the answer should be this one, but the wording, even in this one, I guess you could find some errors with this. But yeah, that's the issue with the zip line. When you get on a zip line, you're either going to go away from your car or further towards your car. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me actually think about the wording on these ones and change them slightly. Okay, take out your um, workbooks. I'm going to give you some practice questions in the exam. There's a practice test on page 489. This practice exam here, this was just the one that I handed out um, on Friday. Okay, question 1 is good. 2 is good. It's on page 489. 3 is good. 1, 2, 3. On the next page, number 4. Not actually number 5. I don't like 5. Number 6. And actually, maybe number 6 I'll start it with you right now. F of -2. So let's do f of -2 together. So f of -2, when x is -2, what's the corresponding y value when x is -2? Anybody know? So it would be this dot here, this coordinate here. That's when x is -2. What's that corresponding y value? 0. Yeah. So f of -2 is 0. Then it wants you to calculate what f of 2 is. So now find which coordinate represents f of 2. So that would be down here. What would f of 2 be? Sorry, -4. So 0 plus -4 is how you'd be doing that question. You're calculating this and this separately, and then it wants you to add them together. Okay, number 7. Number 8, 9, 10, and for number 10, where it says x-intercept, underneath it just put let y equal 0. So the x-intercept of the graph for this guy here, let y equal 0. Number 14, number 15, for this one, circle the first and third, sorry, first and fourth bullet, but don't actually do this one until tomorrow because we're going to do a question similar to this tomorrow. And that's it. So you guys can do those ones right now.